Alright, thanks for clicking on the video. This is Galpain. Just back with a quick uh, Resident Evil relaxation here. And on Resident Evil relaxation, we like to play Resident Evil and relax. And unfortunately, I couldn't relax while I was playing Resident Evil here because I needed some footage to play in the background while I was speaking. Because this video is the result of the call for contributors for the Resident Evil ranking, which is a video response to Retronauts. And unfortunately, I couldn't get the joypad to work while recording the footage here, and I'm trying to play with the keyboard, and I don't know what button does what, and I'm not doing very well at all. But I tried anyway, so please excuse the crappiness of the my gameplay here. I'm not actually this bad at Resident Evil, I promise. Um, because I can complete the game and all that, and do it like in less than 3 hours. But anyway, so the Resident Evil ranking that I called for, that I asked people to contribute for, there was four contributors to help me out in ranking the games. So I done my ranking, and four other YouTubers gave their ranking as well. So basically, the rules are: this is a video response to Retronauts. Retronauts did a podcast in I think it was 2022, where they ranked 16 Resident Evil games. They left out Survivor, and like Gun Survivor 2, and they left out a few like Resident Evil Mercenaries and all that. They left out a few of those. They just went for the mainline games. So I done the same. I couldn't believe how long ago the podcast was actually, because I listened to it a while ago. But I've been listening to Retronauts for nearly a year now, and I've started like with their like 2015 ones, and I'm up to like I think like 2017, 2018 now. So very, very good podcast. Very informative, and there's kind of industry journalists, game journalists involved in it. So very good. So the four people that have assisted me in the ranking is Loch Ness Monster, Play More Games 371, Pink Princess 7280, and PJ Venom 1985. So four top quality YouTubers there. I will leave the four channels in the comment section. So please go and subscribe to them and watch their content. So Loch Ness Monster does a varied sort of amount of content talking about games. Play More Games similarly as well. Some really nice content there. Pink Princess does like a mix of sort of let's plays of different games, and PJ Venom does a mix as well. He does like trophy, like showing the trophies he got, but also some general conversation as well. So those are the four YouTubers, and once again, thanks very much for contributing. So the story is then, or the way the format of this goes is that I go through each of the Resident Evil games in order that they came out, or basically the order I have them here written down. And then I give the score of each person, and then we get a total score. And then the game with the lowest score will be ranked number one, and the game with the highest score will be ranked number 16. Now, not necessarily that number 16 is a bad game, it's just all 16 Resident Evil games are good, in my opinion, so it's actually difficult, quite difficult to rank them. But oh well, we tried anyway. So, the first game then is Resident Evil 1. And Resident Evil 1, Loch Ness Monster gave Resident Evil 1 9 points. Play More Games gave Resident Evil 1, well, sorry, ranked it at number 9, so that's 9 points. And then Play More Games ranked it at number 1, so that's interesting. A lot of love there for the original Resident Evil game. Pink Princess ranked Resident Evil at number 5, and PJ Venom ranked Resident Evil 1 at number 6, and then I ranked it at number 8. So interesting, we're all kind of on the same kind of boat there, apart from Play More Games, who put Resident Evil 1 at the number 1 position. So Resident Evil 1, if you haven't played it, obviously if you're listening to this, you probably have. So you've probably listened to like loads of stuff about it. It was the first in the series. It was kind of developed from the standpoint of Sweet Home, or something similar to Sweet Home, just with in a kind of a 3D kind of environment. Then it turned into like a B movie game, with a bit of kind of inspiration from Alone in the Dark. I think that's sort of like style. And then they went for the pre-rendered backgrounds with the 3D characters on top, so they could do a lot with the 3D characters, and they could also put more assets on the screen because of the backgrounds weren't 3D, they were 2D, or kind of like semi 2D. They were kind of paintings, and then they're giving the illusion that you're kind of walking around, but with different angles. But Resident Evil 2, great game. You got two characters, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, and you can take control of each of them. And there's a scenario for each character, and kind of this kind of trope of having two characters. It's repeated in a few of the games, but not that many. And I think it's a really good mechanic because it does have a lot of replay value for the game. And yeah, Resident Evil 1, it got a lot of things wrong. Like some of the music in the DualShock version wasn't, or the director's cut wasn't good. And the kind of, I don't know, it's general kind of clunkiness um of the game with the limbs kind of don't really fit well together. But all in all, Resident Evil 1 is like a fantastic game. It's a really good game. Top drawer and well deserved uh to be kind of at the top of this list here. So Resident Evil 1 ends up at 29 points. So then next then is Resident Evil 2. So Loch Ness Monster ranked Resident Evil 2 as number one. Very interesting there. Play More Games put Resident Evil 2 as number two. Pink Princess also put Resident Evil 2 as number two. So Resident Evil 2 very popular. No surprise here. PJ Venom, Resident Evil 2 is number three. And for myself, Resident Evil 2 is number four. So Resident Evil 2 then gets a score of 12. So Resident Evil 2, what a game. It was the first Resident Evil game I played. I played Resident Evil 2 before Resident Evil 1, and then I played Resident Evil 3, so it was actually difficult to go back to play Resident Evil 1 after playing 2. So I played Resident Evil 1.5 there recently just to see kind of what it could have been like, and they made the right decision. Resident Evil 2 came out absolutely fantastically. Very entertaining game. There's two characters, Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield. I think Leon is probably the main Resident Evil character now at the moment. You could say Ethan because he's in the most recent games, or Chris Redfield because he's in quite a few games as well. But I think Leon is their sort of go-to character, and you can tell that these were the most popular ones, like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, because the characters in Resident Evil 1, 2, or 3 are the ones that they sort of like Capcom go back to now. If they want to, make a Resident Evil game, they'd be like, we better put Leon in it, we better put Claire in it, or Jill, etc. And not necessarily, I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like it's me. So the good thing about Resident Evil 2 as well as sort of the updated graphics, the storyline is very good as well. I don't like the tank controls. I prefer the controls in for the static backgrounds with the 3D characters, like not in a 3D environment. I prefer the Resident Evil remake and Zero controls on the PlayStation 4. I think they're better. But the tank controls, you have to deal with them. Remember the very first time I played Resident Evil 2, I got killed on the first screen. I actually got killed on the first screen today as well while recording this footage because I couldn't use the keyboard to turn Leon around. I keep rotating him around in a complete 360 circle. But yeah, I got killed on the first screen, could not control it at all. It was so difficult to control when I first started playing Resident Evil 2. But yeah, you got two characters, you go through the police station and then down to the labs. And then the handy thing about Resident Evil 2 though is the two characters have two separate scenarios. So you can play Leon's scenario and then play Claire's scenario, but then you can go back and play Claire's scenario with Leon, which has some um differences in it, and Claire's scenario B then is Leon's scenario A. So it's a very interesting replay value. And also you have like Hunk and Tofu as well to get, which is, it's great. I think that was sort of the best way to do it. I think they should have continued the other games like that, but they went in different directions. So Resident Evil 2, top drawer game. Resident Evil 3 then, Loch Ness Monster put Resident Evil 3 at number 10. Play More Games put Resident Evil 3 at number 3. And Pink Princess, very interesting, put Resident Evil 3 at number 1. So that's Pink Princess's favorite Resident Evil game. And PJ Venom put Resident Evil 3 at number 8. And I put Resident Evil 3 at number 6. So Resident Evil 3 gets a total score of 28 then. So Resident Evil 3, again, in the trilogy of games, I mean, I'm sure you've heard all the stories about, Resident Evil 3 and how it wasn't supposed to be, and then it was, basically like it was called Resident Evil 3 Nemesis because um there was some I don't know, there was something with Nintendo where Nintendo were going to get the next Resident Evil game, and it ended up being um or Sega were going to get it or something like that. I can't remember anyway, but it was Code Veronica is like, a lot of people think Code Veronica is the real Resident Evil 3, and then the Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is kind of like the backup one that they released anyway. But whatever the story is anyway, Resident Evil 3 is a great game. Unfortunately, you only have one character to choose here. You do play two characters. You start off as Jill, and then you go through the game, and then basically you use Carlos later then. When Jill gets infected, but you don't control Carlos for the entire game, or you don't control Jill for the entire game, which is a bit of a step down from Resident Evil 2, I think. But they do include the mercenary missions in Resident Evil 3, which are fantastic. They're very, very good. There's three other characters, Carlos and oh, I forget the other two now, but oh, Nikolai and I forgot the third guy. But it'll come to me like, in half an hour, and you control them, and then you have to basically like it's a time thing. Um, very very good. So that was sort of like the first mercenary missions, which kind of they really made the mercenary modes a lot better in later games. I think anyway. But yeah, Resident Evil 3, the story in it's great. A lot of people don't like it though because of the RNG. You can basically soft lock in a couple of places, or I've watched like a few speed runs where like someone's speed run is like messed up. When you're in the police, or not the police station, the hospital, when you have to push, it's random where the puzzle, like the puzzle, so you can't get it straight away. So if it doesn't come off the first time, you have to start your speed run again. But oh well, what can you do? And then next one, then we have a bit of a sort of a jump then to Resident Evil 4. So Resident Evil 4 basically stars Leon, and it's very different than the original trilogy because it's all 3D backgrounds. Instead of zombies, it's Las Plagas, which is kind of strange. So I didn't really like that. I thought it was kind of, you're going into like a, like it doesn't make sense. You're going into a village from like 200 years ago. Um, and then the people are infected, so it's different when they're zombies, I think. Some people think that zombies were just created like in the 60s so that you could basically, you could kill people, or you could decapitate them, or you could shoot them and all that, but it wasn't really like a person, it was a dead person, so you could get around all the censorship. But um yeah, I prefer the zombie enemy as opposed to the Las Plagas enemy, or the Gonados. So Resident Evil 4 stars Leon. He's rescuing the president's daughter in Spain, and there's lots been spoken about Resident Evil 4 as well. It's such a fantastic game. I loved it when it came out first. I played it to death. I always remember I got the steel case version in like the local game shop in Ireland where I'm from. And it wasn't when it was out, it was like way later when it was out, because I don't know, in Ireland sometimes we'd get the games later. Or you'd have to go to like one of the cities to get the games. Because there's a few extra visions, but they used to sell out of the games a lot. So I remember getting it and then just playing it to death and playing all the mercenary modes, and it was fantastic. I also remember my housemate came home and he bought like a new CD, and he wanted to play the CD. So he put the CD in the PlayStation 2. So I had to wait like, for like a half an hour while he was listening to his CD. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 top drawer. So Resident Evil 4, the rankings then. Loch Ness Monster gives Resident Evil 4 3. So put it at rank 3 there, which is very high. And then Play More Games puts Resident Evil 4 at 15. So a real kind of divergent or difference in opinion there between the top two YouTubers. And then Pink Princess puts Resident Evil 4 at number 6. So kind of mid range there. PJ Venom, Resident Evil 4, 16. Wow, so right at the very bottom. Interesting there. So PJ not a fan of Resident Evil 4. And I put Resident Evil 4 at number 11. So I prefer the old fashioned ones, like the static background with the 3D character on the background. I prefer those. So the 3D ones are not as high on my list. So Resident Evil 4 then receives a total score of 45. Then next then we have Code Veronica. So I'll put Code Veronica here because I haven't looked up the exact order of the release of the games, but I know Code Veronica was around the time of Resident Evil 4 before it. And well, it's probably way before it actually, now that I think about it. But Code Veronica, fantastic game. So I'll go through the rankings of Code Veronica and say a little bit about it. As the criteria for the Retronauts episode was, you speak about the game and then you give the rankings, or give the rankings then speak about the game. So Code Veronica receives 11, rank 11 from Loch Ness Monster, and rank 9 from Playmore Games, number 3 on Pink Princess, and Code Veronica number 1 for PJ Venom, and it's number 3 for me. So Code Veronica gets total score of 27. So Code Veronica very high on people's list there, which, like not a surprise because what a fantastic game. I'll always remember playing Code Veronica at Christmas. My friend My best friend, who actually became my best man at my wedding, he basically, I think he got it as a present, but didn't like it, and then gave it to me as a present. So he was like, "Here you go, you like games." So yeah, at university I played it, and everyone was gone home for Christmas, and I always remember like I was the only person left. I was working in a bar at university, and I had to work basically while everyone else went home. I had to stay working, so I was just in our flat on my own playing Resident Evil Code Veronica for the whole Christmas. Loved it. It was great. But yeah, I go back and play it again. A lot of people don't like Code Veronica because again, you can soft lock in it. You know, you can run out of ammo very easily if you don't know what you're doing. But like, I never actually considered that like a bad thing because I'm always like really frugal with ammo anyway. You know, I'll run around the zombies or you know give him a couple of gunshots and then go over and stab him so I can finish the game with like 200 handgun bullets or something like. But that's just the way I played it. But so I never said it was a problem. But there is a few difficult parts in it, like the Nosferatu fight is very difficult as well. Although I've seen people like beat Nosferatu with a knife and stuff, so the knife as well in Code Veronica is very strong. Um, just thinking about it there. So that's not actually that's not actually a major feat. But yeah, so Code Veronica Fast game, you play as Claire Redfield. Again, it doesn't do the two character route. I think Resident Evil stopped doing that, which is a shame because I really like that. It kind of just added a lot to the game. I don't know, maybe there was, they had budget constraints or whatever, but Code Veronica is great, but it changes the static backgrounds or the pre-rendered backgrounds to a 3D areas, but you still have the camera angles, so it's got a very unique look. There's only a certain kind of period of time where that sort of style of game kind of was popular, and it's around the time of Code Veronica came out. So all the backgrounds are 3D. You know, they're fully 3D, but you can't move the camera and stuff. You have to. All the camera angles are all there, so it's very cinematic. Silent Hill was around the same time, and the start of Silent Hill, they sort of went for the camera angles, but then basically the camera was behind Harry for the whole game then, well, sorry, most of the game. So it was a little bit like it. So it was kind of keeping classic Resident Evil going with Code Veronica with the camera angles, but ultimately, Resident Evil would go the way of Resident Evil 4 and kind of never look back. Um, yeah, Code Veronica, you control Claire Redfield, and you do control Chris as well. So it's similar to Resident Evil 3, where you control like Claire or Jill for the whole most of the game, and then you have another character. Although you do control Chris longer than you control Carlos, and Code Veronica is a very long game as well. It took me quite a while to complete it. I've never tried to speedrun it, but I've watched people speedrun it. It does take quite a while. Um, so the next one then would be Resident Evil 1 Remake. So I think so anyway. Resident Evil 1 Remake. Loch Ness Monster gave Resident Evil 1 Remake number 5 in the ranking. And Play More Games ranked it at number 4. So very high there. And then Pink Princess ranked Resident Evil 1 Remake number 12. So quite low there for Pink Princess. Again, not necessarily that Resident Evil 1 Remake is a bad game, just difficult to rank them. And then for PJ Venom, Resident Evil 1 Remake is Resident Evil. Oh, sorry, number 2 for PJ Venom. So very high there. So just below Code Veronica for PJ. And then for me, then Remake 1 is number 5. So Remake 1 then receives a score of 28. So Resident Evil 1 Remake, just like in my opinion, the best remake that has ever been made. Uh, the quality of it is fantastic. It's such an upgrade. It took everything that was good about the first game and just made everything better. It just improved. I don't think it did anything where the first game, the original did it better. I think everything was improved. Um, there probably is something like, there's some like clock or RNG or something, or there's something. But for me, it's just a fantastic remake. That's how a remake should be done. You take the original game, improve the graphics drastically, and then add a little bit to it. I mean, I know they added, Lisa Trevor and the graveyard section and the masks and all that, and then there's additional stairs in the house that kind of seems weird if you're used to playing Resident Evil 1 Remake and you go back to play Resident Evil 1 Original. You're looking for some of the things that are in Resident Evil 1 Remake, but they're not there. So very, very good game. The voice acting was slightly improved as well, not that much though. I still love the original Resident Evil 1 voice acting, the corniness and the hamminess of it, and also the remake kind of continues that trope as well, which is, I think it's just hilarious. I love it. I would rather that than the serious voice acting. Although Resident Evil 2 Remake does do good serious voice acting, but I still like the hamminess of Resident Evil 1 Remake. So that's the I'll do this in a few parts so that I'm not sitting here talking for like an hour. But that's part one then. So I hope you have enjoyed listening to me talk about Resident Evil for a while. And thanks again to the contributors, and I will be back in part two with the next few games. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.